A study from Brunel University, London, has found that physically weaker men are more likely than physically strong men to be attracted to socialism. This is a real study which actually confirms the findings of a previous study from Denmark. The Brunel academic studied 171 men aged 18 to 40 and found those who favored socialism tended to be what, in scientific terminology, are usually referred to as weaklings, or wimps, or milquetoasts, or panty waists, or pansies, or sissies, or wusses, or doormats, or wimps. Maybe I said wimps already. Conversely, men who supported capitalism tended to be physically stronger and to kick sand in the faces of men who supported socialism and then drive away in their far larger cars with their much prettier and more sexually satisfied wives. Once the stronger capitalist men were out of sight, the socialist men tended to stick their tongues out at them and then go home sniffling with grimy, tear-stained faces and hide in the attic, pulling the wings off flies. It's possible I made some of that up. Probably the part about the flies. Anyway, the scientists found, and this is true, that men who were more physically formidable were less likely to support the redistribution of wealth, whether or not they were themselves wealthy. This may be because weaker men, sometimes referred to as mama's boys or girly men or cream puffs, realize that the only way they can get their hands on the wealth of stronger men is by ganging up on them and plundering their honestly earned resources and then sharing them out among themselves while telling themselves what good and generous people they are for stealing other men's money. Stronger men, on the other hand, seem to believe that any puling, panty-waist mama's boy willing to expand the tyrannical powers of a constitutionally limited government in order to steal wealth that doesn't belong to him and which he would never have the strength or courage to steal or create on his own, probably deserves to have his underwear seized from the back and pulled so high up his nether bifurcation that he finds himself chewing on the smelly part. Then he should be hung by his shirt collar on the hook inside the locker of the prettiest girl in school, so that when she finds him there, she'll pretend to sympathize with him, but then go on a date with the stronger capitalist man who will be able to support and sexually satisfy her. According to one of the social scientists who performed the study, Dr. Heinrich von Weistheimer, quote, "Our researchers observed that those men who were technically designated as milksops or snivellers or whiny boys tended to more often say things like, 'It's not fair,' and 'I want some too,' in wheedling, high-pitched voices that just made you want to bounce them down the street like so many rubber balls," unquote. After the study was completed, the researchers and the physically stronger capitalist men all went out for a beer together, leaving the weaker socialist men behind, clutching their plush dolls of Barack Obama. Or as they refer to him, one of us. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing hunky-dunky-doo. Ship-shape, tipsy-topsy, the world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day, hurrah, hooray! It makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray! Oh, hooray, hurrah!
All right, it's the mailbag tomorrow, so get your questions in. You've got to be a subscriber to thedailywire.com. It's just a lousy $8 a month. You get to ask anything you want about politics, religion, your personal life, anything. The answers are guaranteed 100% to be correct, and they will change your life on occasion for the better. So you want to get in to thedailywire.com, lousy $8 a month, and you can be in the mailbag tomorrow. That opening was as cruel and nasty as anything I've ever heard, and I'm ashamed that anyone would put that on the air. And we'll get back to it in just a minute. But first, we have to talk about Policy Genius, because a lot of talk about health care, health insurance and all this, but you have to ask, do you have life insurance? And if you don't have life insurance, it could be that you are a base knave and caitiff, because your people who depend on you will not be taken care of if your secret hideout is found and your rebel band is overrun and something terrible happens to you. The people who rely on you will not have the money that you are now earning. That could be your kids, could be your spouse, could be your elderly parents who need you to take care of them. So the thing about life insurance, why don't you have it? It's expensive. You don't want to deal with the life insurance salesman. You don't have to. You go to policygenius.com. It's the best online life insurance marketplace. There's no sales talk. They don't push anything on you. You just get to compare the most accurate quotes from the top A-rated life insurance companies, and you can save, that way you save up to 40% on life insurance, because when they're competing, obviously, you win. Policy Genius is a very simple, user-friendly website to shop and compare all the top-rated life insurance companies and give you the best options. And they have licensed customer service team to help find you the best policy, the best price. They're not going to push anything on you. They won't call you at home. They're just going to help you compare the prices. And while you're there, you can check out other insurance things they have, like pet insurance, which is kind of interesting, especially if you happen to be supported by your dog. So go to Policy Genius. Go to policygenius.com today, and you can save over 40% off prices for life insurance. Because when life insurers compete for your business, you save money, lots of money. That is policygenius.com. Policygenius.com. Zero jargon, zero sales pressure, zero hassle. Life insurance made easy. Free quotes, zero hassle, peace of mind. Don't wait. Go to policygenius.com today. I cracked myself up with a bad joke about dogs. I'm sorry about that. All right. But really, life insurance is something you ought to have. That's a good way to get it. Policygenius.com. So, talking about the weak and the strong, and the fact that weak men can be very dangerous, because weak people do kind of nasty things. They win by subterfuge. There's a wonderful, if you've never read the novel, I know I've quoted this before. It's been a while since I quoted it. But if you've never read the novel, Ken Kesey's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, you may have seen the movie with Jack Nicholson. It won 1 million Oscars. But the book is better. The book is much better. Really well-written book about a kind of a tough guy who is, to get out of prison, pretends he's insane, and he's thrown into a mad asylum with all these people who are supposed to be insane, and he starts to lead them and bring them back out of their insanity simply by the force, essentially, of his masculinity, of his unbridled masculinity. And there's one point in which, McMurphy, who's a rouster and a drinker and a fighter and all these things, he is talking to them about what it's like to be in a bar fight. And he says to them, a weak man is dangerous because he will kick you in the groin, whereas a strong man is dangerous because he'll pick up a chair. And he says a strong man seeks to make himself stronger, while a weak man seeks to make you weaker. And that is really what we are seeing in the political sphere today, because the Democrats have the media. They're weak. They don't have the government. The Republicans have the government. And the Democrats are wielding the media to create this complete atmosphere of fantasy and lies and to silence the right, while the right so far is using the government maybe not as effectively as the left is using the press. So, like, for instance, right now, everybody's waiting for Jeff Sessions to testify. He's probably going to start testifying in about 15 minutes. We won't have time to talk about that today. Obviously, we'll talk about it tomorrow. But why? Why should we talk about it? Why is he testifying? Why is everybody talking about it? We already know that Trump isn't under investigation for anything, or wasn't under investigation for this Russia collusion. The idea that Jeff Sessions is some kind of Russian operative is so stupid and ridiculous and insane. And the idea that he would collaborate or collude with Russians to do anything wrong with the election is just absolute nonsense. This is all now a fantasy. It's all, shadows and mirrors and smoke that they are doing because they don't have the government, and so they can't continue to do what they were doing before, which is to take away our freedom. You know what the most important thing about Jeff Sessions is? I'm willing to bet that a lot of you listening to the sound of my voice don't know this story about Jeff Sessions, that what he did recently was he stopped the Obama administration practice that encouraged and sometimes required banks and other companies to donate large amount of monies to outside groups as part of settlement agreements with the federal government. Now, that sounds like an incredibly boring story, but it's not. Listen for just a second. Say you're a bank, say you're a big business, okay? And the federal government comes after you. So one day, it's like that show on Showtime, Billions. One day, the federal attorney comes out and says, you're not doing things right. We're taking you in. You could go to prison, or you could settle with the government for several hundreds of millions of dollars in fines, and we want you to pay those hundreds of millions of dollars in fines to Acorn, to our left-wing, whatever our left-wing charity is, the charity of our choice. That's what the Obama administration was doing. And since we know that under, the new restrictions and the new regulations that Obama piled on business, you're virtually always committing a crime when you're in business. You're virtually always afoul of some stupid regulation or some law. So it's just a question of time and of choice that the federal attorney is going to come to you from the deep state and say, pay up and pay Acorn or whoever we want you to pay as a settlement for this. And of course, you don't want to go to jail. You don't want to face even worse fines if you lose a court case. And so you pay up. Jeff Sessions stopped that. Just a total slush fund. The other thing that's funny, in conjunction with that, while James Comey was testifying and everybody was going, what's he saying? And what does it mean? And did he say this? And did he say that? The House was passing a law that gutted Dodd-Frank. They're passing a bill that gutted Dodd-Frank, which is this incredible mountain of legislation and regulation that was written by Barney Frank and Christopher Dodd, two of the big causes, two of the men who actually caused the 2008 meltdown. So they caused the meltdown and then said, oh, wow, the free market doesn't work. We need more government intrusion in your business. And if you violate that intrusion, by the way, you've got to pay millions of dollars to our favorite left-wing charity. So all of this stuff was going on, this incredible chain of regulation and corruption, deep state corruption that was funneling money to the left. Jeff Sessions stomped on that, as well he should have. It should be illegal. You shouldn't be able to do it in the first place. But of course, nobody ever stops it, because if you win, then you get the money. So Jeff Sessions, because he's an honest guy, straight arrow, he put a stop to it, as well he should. That's the big story about Jeff Sessions. Whatever happens today, however they wrong foot him in testimony, which I don't think they will. I think he's smarter than most of the panel put together. I just think it's not even important. It's not a story. There was a moment yesterday that was kind of symbolic of all this, and it was funny, I have to say. Was Trump sat down and had his first meeting with his full cabinet, because the left has been doing everything they can to, slow down his appointments. And the Trump administration hasn't been that efficient in stocking the government with his people and getting the Obama people out. So he sits down with his full cabinet and he goes around the table, letting them introduce themselves to the press, and they start to lavish praise on him. And some of it got a little fulsome. Here's just a brief clip of Reince Priebus lavishing praise on him.
On behalf of the entire senior staff around you, Mr. President, we thank you for the opportunity and the blessing that you've given us to serve your agenda and the American people. And we're continuing to work very hard every day to accomplish those goals.
So it's a blessing. You've blessed us, Mr. Trump. You blessed us, Mr. President. So it got a little fulsome, a little silly, and Chuck Schumer got in a good shot. We got to give the devil his due. He put out his own video making fun of it, and this is that.
I want to thank everybody for coming. I just thought we'd go around the room. Lucy, how'd we do on the Sunday show yesterday?
Your tone was perfect. You were right on message.
Michelle, how'd my hair look coming out of the gym this morning?
You have great hair. Nobody has better hair than you.
Before we go any further, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity and blessing to serve your agenda.
That's great.
Well, good on you, Chuck. You got in a good shot. I mean, that is funny. The thing is, though, that really the meeting, when I actually watched the video, because everybody was making so much fun of it, and I didn't find it that offensive. I didn't find it that silly, but listen, turnabout is fair play. But it is kind of symbolic of what's going on, is that Trump is putting together a government. He has the government. The Republicans have the government. And all that the left has is that kind of thing, is mockery and confusion and fantasy, this fantasy that they're creating, and lies. And Trump's real point in that meeting was very different. How Trump opened that meeting was really what he was trying to say. And this is cut number 2.
We have much great news to share with the American people today as we continue to deliver on our promises. Due to a record-long delay in confirmation and the confirmation process by the Senate Democrats, which I call the obstructionists. Maybe they'll change, but I doubt it for a while. But they are truly obstructionists. This is our first cabinet meeting with the entire cabinet present. The confirmation process has been record-setting long, and I mean record-setting long, with some of the finest people in our country being delayed and delayed and delayed. But much of that is over, and now we're going through, as you know, the regular process with people at other levels of government, and that's a very long process also, including ethics committee, which has become very difficult to deal with.
So Trump's real point was basically it took him this long to put this cabinet together, not because of his incompetence, but because this is what the Democrats are doing. And we all remember what Hillary Clinton said when Trump hinted that he might not accept the results of the of the election, and she said, "That's horrifying." I can't quite do her screechy hawk's cry of a voice, but she said, "That's horrifying," because, the democratic process. And man, if you could just think back to this stuff on MSNBC, and I try not to hit MSNBC too much because I believe they're an openly honest left-wing station. It's not like NBC and CBS and ABC and the New York Times and the Washington Post, who pretend to be honest brokers of the news, but in fact are far left operatives, basically, with press cards. MSNBC at least is telling you, like Fox News, we are left wingers, we are right wingers. That's fine by me. But MSNBC, I just remember when he said that, when Trump said that he might not accept the results of the election, he was going to leave people in suspense. They went on forever. This is disqualifying. It's the end of even the head of the RNC at the time, Michael Steele, said, "Oh, it's disqualifying. He can't be a candidate if he says this and all this stuff." But of course, now it's the Democrats who will not accept this election and are just planning to win the House so they can impeach Trump. That is all they're trying to do, is lay the groundwork for that with this complete and utter fantasy of Russian collusion. I got to say goodbye to Facebook and YouTube, but you can come over to thedailywire.com and watch the show right there if you subscribe. And if you subscribe, you can be in the mailbag, more importantly, because your horrible, miserable life that you're just dragging yourself through could be completely transformed by having your questions answered on this show. So come on over.